Hello everyone, back by popular demand. So welcome back to the summer term after the Easter break. I hope you're all well. I want to start this video by asking you to think back to when we watched I, Daniel Blake and when we watched Doctor Strange as a class. Whether you're in year 10, year 11 or year 12 or year 13 indeed. So cast your minds back and think about how you reacted, especially to the end of I, Daniel Blake, and how you reacted to watching Doctor Strange. So it might be that you were very emotional at the end of I, Daniel Blake, and you reacted in a way that showed that you had emotionally involved yourself in the narrative. You felt like you were emotionally involved with Daniel Blake's story, and the end of the film actually touched you quite significantly and made you quite upset. It might be that you got 20 minutes into Doctor Strange and were bored out of your brains, which is sometimes the case for me, and I know it's the case for Mr. Tuck as well. And you might be sat there thinking, how can you? How can you be bored with such a film? This is all to do with audience preference. This is all to do with audiences. And the beauty of media studies is that we all react to things differently because all audience members are different. And we vary for numerous reasons. We vary because of our upbringing, because of where we live, our gender, our sexuality, our race, our ethnicity, our social class, our lifestyles, our values. There are a whole host of reasons why we react differently to things, partly due to taste as well. So Richard Hall in the early 1980s came up with a reception theory and basically said that media texts are encoded, and encoded is the key word. Media texts are encoded with meanings, and we as an audience decode these meanings by watching them or by using them. So the way we decode a text is down to us as an audience member, and there are really three ways. He says there are three ways in which an audience can decode a text. So if we keep on with I, Daniel Blake as an example, if you get to the end of the film and are really emotionally touched by what you've seen and you're quite upset and it makes you think, oh my God, that's the reality for some people. I'd never thought of that before and it's actually really upsetting and I need to think a bit more about people's realities and about people's situations, then I would suggest you had taken the dominant reading, or what's called the dominant reading or the preferred reading. You have read the text in the way in which the producers wanted you to. Ken Loach and the production team probably wanted you to feel that way, therefore you have taken the dominant reading. You have gone with their view, you have gone with their assumption and their design. It might be that you watch a media text and take an oppositional view. So personally, you might think I'm strange for this. Personally, I find Marvel films very, very similar, quite boring actually, and I very rarely can I sit through a whole Marvel film without feeling distracted or feeling like I want to do something else. Another example of this might be that I've tried to watch Mrs. Brown's Boys and just do not find it funny in any way, shape or form. I've tried to laugh at the jokes. I've sat there with people who do find it funny and I just don't get it. So I've taken oppositional view there. I don't react to those texts in the way in which the producers want me to. And you might be sat there thinking, actually, yeah, there are some things that I've watched with my friends where they've really liked it and I haven't, or where they've laughed at the jokes and I haven't. Or you might be sat there thinking, yeah, actually, I watched something with my parents that they find really funny or that they engage with or they cry at watching and I just don't have that reaction. So it might be that they take the dominant reading and you take the oppositional reading. So they're your two main readings. The negotiated reading is slightly different, and the negotiated reading is somewhere in between. So a good example I think of this would be something like Joker from last year. Now, Joker was a film about a kind of rebellious anti-hero whose actions we might not condone, whose actions and behaviour you might think are criminal and unjustified and violent and nasty. However, you might sympathise and empathise with the character through learning about his backstory. So you are taking the text at face value. You're not completely agreeing with everything that happens, but you are negotiating your way through it. I don't condone the violence, but I can see why he was driven to violence because of things that have happened in his life previously. Now, I would suggest that these days, active audiences negotiate everything they see. And if you're an active, critical member of an audience, you are always negotiating your way through media. You don't always, I'd like to think that we don't always take things at face value and completely agree with them. There are certain things in I, Daniel Blake, that I don't quite agree with. There are certain things in Marvel films that I really enjoy. There are certain things with the Joker that I really enjoyed and I really agreed with. However, I won't agree with everything, and sometimes that is actually the producer's point. Another example of this that's an A-level text that we've looked at could be something like Men's Health magazine. Now, I might read Men's Health magazine with a negotiated viewpoint. I might see that it's here as a magazine for men, and it's to do with kind of a healthy lifestyle. It's about nutrition. It's about exercise and finding a certain body. However, when I read particular articles in here, I might not agree with everything that they are selling me. I might not, for example, I might turn the first page and I might see an advert for Longines watches and I might think, actually, that's not me. I'm never going to be able to afford one. Or actually, I'm not the target audience because I very rarely dress like that and I rarely play snooker in a very posh club and I don't wear a cravat. It might be that I turn the next few pages and see another advert for an expensive watch and the chap in the advert's playing rugby. I've never really been a rugby fan. So part of me might think, actually, I enjoy reading some of the articles, but I don't agree with all of the values inside. So like I've said, I would argue that we as audiences in 2020 are constantly negotiating what we see. And as a good kind of healthy, critical media student, you should be thinking about this all the time in what you see, especially with the news coverage at the moment on the coronavirus and other news events. You should be watching the media all the time and thinking, actually, I agree with that. That seems factual. That seems evidence-based. However, that's biased, and I am always negotiating my way through what I see. So we're going to be using this week. We're going to be using these ideas in terms of relating them to your CSPs and to think about the broader media and what you're seeing on a daily basis. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. More soon.